I finally found it. It took a while, but it's in there. This week was budget week, and millions of Canadians suffering under the cost of living crisis. All those people who are lined up for food banks because they can't afford the price of food were desperately hoping that there would be something in Mark Carney's first budget to bring down prices. And at first, it didn't look good, but I found it. It's on page 220. There is something in there for you to bring prices down if you're in the market for a private jet or luxury yacht. I'm not kidding. There's literally nothing here to bring down groceries, to bring down the cost of housing, to deal with any of the inflation caused by Liberal deficits. In fact, this whole budget is full of billions and billions in new spending that you'll have to pay for, including all that new debt charges on Mark Carney's massive deficits. But on page 220, here it is. To provide relief, Budget 2025 announces the government's intention to end the luxury tax on aircraft and vessels.
Gang, what's up? Aaron here, Canadian Looney. We have a fun part to start out with, but this video is going to get pretty heavy. They killed the birds. Makes no sense. Anyhow, we'll get into that. But first, we've got Andrew Scheer. We'll let him finish up. He's one of our favorite MPs to watch on here. He's the funniest guy on Parliament Hill. And he has a very clever way of explaining things so that you understand rather than talking above you or down to you, as all of the Liberal cabinet ministers do with nonsense. They don't even understand themselves. They just know they sold out and they're going to carry that water all the way for Carney. His carnage, which is meant to destroy and ruin our way of being, your children, grandchildren's futures, your present. Again, we're going to kick it off here with Andrew Scheer. He's fun to watch. Like, share, subscribe. Canadian Federal Politics. Get yours right here. I'm really upset about the birds. Like, why would you do that other than to illustrate that you can do it and there's nothing anybody, no citizen can do? You are a corrupt bunch. I hope what happens to the birds happens to this cabinet and every backbencher on that disgusting panel. It makes me sick. Assault guns at night. Give me a break. Let's get into this. Andrew Scheer is entertaining. The rest of this is kind of a downer. Let's go.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
You know, I want to know how this happened. How does Mark Carney look at the landscape in Canada, see all those people lining up at food banks, the young people moving back into their parents' basement because they can't afford housing, and arrive at this? When I talk to my friends and neighbors, they're looking for ways to bring down their grocery bills. They're literally cutting out beef and all the extras just to make ends meet. When Mark Carney goes around the room at the country club and says, "What are you guys feeling the pinch on?" Carney, old bean, if you want to really help lower the cost of things, how about that luxury tax on private jets and yachts? The last time I bought a Gulfstream, I had to pay millions. We were all elbows up for you, so it's time you did something for us. What's crazy about that is that when someone pitched that idea, Carney said, "He's right, you know." And now it's in the budget. Not a single measure to bring down home prices, not a single measure to bring down grocery prices, not a single measure to fight inflation. Nothing to take off the taxes on grocery farming and production. Instead, a tax break on private jets and yachts. That's Mark Carney's idea of making life more affordable. Another crazy thing, they left the luxury tax there on vehicles. There are lots of vehicles that cost over $100,000 that farmers or tradespeople use, or many different industries would need those kinds of vehicles. All those working people will still pay that luxury tax, but good old Rupert, he's cashing in. Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives are fighting for an affordable budget for an affordable life. Real measures that stop inflation, bring grocery prices down, and end the practice of so much of your tax dollars going just to pay the interest on all that debt. If you like these videos, please like and subscribe. And if you don't like these videos, just scroll on. And as always, thanks for watching.
I think it is extraordinary that Mark Carney has become the Prime Minister of Canada. He did a terrible job in Britain.
How many kids did you molest with Jeffrey Epstein? More than just elbows.
You're looking at the image of the ostriches from this morning. What's your reaction? absolute friggin' disgust. How could anybody shoot that many healthy ostrich or any animal? My God, it's a massacre. Everybody knows that there was no disease in these birds. The CFIA refused to do a test. They never tested one of them animals. And because they want to destroy the science and the antibody program that's going on, with the explicit help of the court system, where the courts would not look at any data, any scientific reports or information after the first initial PCR test when nobody knew what it was. The CFIA blocked all of our expert opinions. And it's led to that. These birds are going to be martyrs, because with the law written the way it is, where a bureaucrat or anybody from CFIA can come on your farm, have a suspicion that you have a disease in your animals, and order the slaughter of them, is not Canada. We got to take Canada back. And everybody has to get excited about this and get rid of the bullshit that goes on in Ottawa and get some realism back into our Canadian lifestyle. It's not a left and right issue. It's not a it's a political issue, but it's not left to right. It's everybody in the country has to stand up to this bullshit.
When I was 15 years old, I made out with this chick. Her name was Katrin. She was from Switzerland. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. Now, I'm not so interested in the European Union.
I want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing for them, to make sure that they have the housing and the infrastructures that they need, and I felt this budget was one that was going to provide that.
Some of your former colleagues have already been reacting to this news. They've called you a coward, disingenuous, and disloyal. What's your message to your former colleagues?
Well, I think they should look at themselves and see if they're offering the right thing to Canadians.
What are your thoughts on Chris d'Entremont's decision to go to the Liberals?
Well, last spring, Canadians elected a minority parliament and put a check and balance on the power of an untested prime minister. Mr. Carney is trying to manipulate that result and get a majority Canadians did not elect.
I think it's shameful what he did. I could never imagine doing something like that, to misrepresent yourself to voters, to lie to your volunteers. It's only been 6 months since the election. The leaders are the same of the parties. The public, the policies haven't changed. He campaigned against budgets that look just like this, Liberal policies that look just like this. And I sat with him on Fisheries Committee, you know.
All the questions should be for Mr. d'Entremont this morning. I would encourage you to look at his own words about his Prime Minister. We've been very consistent about what we've said our expectations were for this budget. And Mr. d'Entremont, let me just share with you his own words. He said that, quote, "We warned that the Liberals' out-of-control spending and massive deficits were irresponsible, but of course they did not listen. Now, after 6 months under a new Prime Minister who promised financial discipline, Canadians are still waiting. He said that he would be judged by the cost of the grocery store. Well, Canadians are judging him, and they're not impressed." So that's what Mr. d'Entremont had to say about Prime Minister Carney. And so here we have, as a member of Parliament, and Mr. d'Entremont, who said one thing and is now doing another, who said one thing to his constituents, that he would fight for an affordable budget to provide affordability for Canadians, and that's certainly not what we've seen.
Oh, yeah. In this last election, in April, I was more dedicated to the campaign than I ever have been. You know, I'm more experienced now. And also, my mom was murdered, as you mentioned before. And so, because of that, I felt like it was my mission to make sure that we had a Conservative elected here, because I don't want what happened to her to happen to anyone else. And so, I was a full-time university student at the time, like I still am, but you know, I was still processing the fact that my family member was murdered, and, you know, that was obviously very challenging. But I really focused everything on the campaign to make sure that we won. So I was the head of the canvassing team. I worked in collaboration with, like, the deputy campaign manager to organize the campaign activities for, like, locally. We helped organize some events. My whole life was the campaign. I was physically sick by the end because I was working all the time. Like, there was no rest, no relaxing or anything like that. But I remember thinking it's worth it because we're standing up for what we believe in, and it gave me peace to know that I was trying to do the right thing. We had a court date for my aunt the day after he crossed the floor, and so I went to that and sat through that, and I remember I got in my car to drive back to my office after that to see what was going on there. And I started to cry, and I thought, wow, I worked super, super hard for what I believed in, and he had no regard for that. He joined the very team that implemented the policies that allowed my aunt to be murdered.
Look inside yourself, Rosemary.
It's time for a change in this country, my friends. A real change.
Now I have a question. Who's ready?
I am really gobsmacked, Mr. Chair, and quite disappointed that this Conservative motion is necessary. When this Supreme Court decision came down last week arguing that a mandatory minimum sentence for the possession and acquisition of child sexual abuse and exploitation material was cruel and unusual punishment, I thought this could be and would be a unifying moment for members of Parliament and parliamentarians of all stripes. I actually had a moment of hope that the Liberal government would do the right thing here, say this is ridiculous, we are going to reintroduce the law at the first available opportunity and do so using the notwithstanding clause, a key part of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms in this country to assert that Parliament, as the democratically elected body by Canadians, gets to have the final say on this and not an activist judge. And I'll speak to why, very briefly, the mandatory minimum is necessary in the first place. The two offenders that were at the center of this Supreme Court ruling had, each of them, hundreds of images of child sexual exploitation and abuse material, referred to in the decision as child pornography. One of them, 90% of the images were depicting young girls between the ages of 3 and 6 years old, some of which showing them being, quote, subjected to acts of penetration and sodomy committed by adults and minors. The other offender as well had hundreds of images and videos of children from 5 to 10, quote, being subjected to sexual abuse such as fellatio and vaginal and anal penetration by adults. Now, the judge at the trial stage gave the first offender the bare minimum, 90 days imprisonment to be served intermittently at his convenience, and 9 months of imprisonment. The second offender was given very similar, in fact, identical sentence there. Without a mandatory minimum, that sentence, which is already in and of itself offensively low, may have been even lower. That is why a mandatory minimum sentence is necessary. And that is why we are calling on this House to reintroduce this legislation with the notwithstanding clause. I was a victim of sexual abuse as a child. And to my knowledge, there are no photos or videos of that. And I hope that that will end up being true. Child sexual exploitation and abuse material does not exist on a computer screen with the person who possesses it only. There are victims, hundreds of victims of this. There is a market for this. The government needs to send the strictest possible penalty, the strongest possible message in denouncing this. This should not be a partisan issue. This should be something that every member of this committee, Liberal, Bloc, and Conservative, can support, regardless of what the Minister of Justice has said on this, that we call on the House to do the right thing and protect children. Thank you.
Having conversation with Mayor Barra, Unifor has been having conversations also with GM, and we will be united because I've met also with the Oshawa people. I've met with the Oshawa auto workers. I've met also with Unifor, and I'll make sure that they can keep their jobs.
Thank you, Mr. Seaback.
Oh, yeah. I personally find it very confusing how any liberal voter, like, I'm sure you're naive, like, it's okay to be duped. I've been duped. I voted for Trudeau in 2015, believe it or not. So it was a big mistake. I wasn't watching or paying attention then, but I have been paying very close attention since 2023. And let me tell you, these guys don't care about your future. They want your money in their pockets, your future, your kids' future, your grandchildren's futures in their pockets. See what they're doing to Canada with immigration. See what they're doing with housing. Check out what they're doing with our health care. What is better than it was in 2015? Absolutely nothing. It's confusing to me. On a lighter note, my name's Aaron. This is Canadian Loony. I work very hard at this channel, and believe me, I'm not a conservative. I will be voting that way. It seems to be the only way to get out from underneath this liberal conspiracy to destroy our way of being. And if you think like, oh, I don't want to admit that I was fooled or that I was raised liberal, so I'm still a liberal, change it up, because they have no plans for your future except lining their pockets with your tax dollars, laundering that money, spending it in other places. So Mark Carney, Justin Trudeau, all these hack bullshit ministers can get richer on your coin under the guise of being incompetent or negligent. Like, it's not that. They mean to be doing what they're doing, and they're pulling it off. There is no future for Canada under this government. So I watch all the committee meetings. I watch everything that happens in the House of Commons. I also follow the propaganda-driven news of the legacy media that is paid for by this government to dissuade your mind into some kind of trick to think that they're doing it for the benefit of you. It's not for you. Liberal voters, I'm speaking right to you. Please watch the politics, not the news. Like, watch the independents on YouTube. Do anything other than what you're doing, because if you're still being duped and not aware that you're being fooled, that's a huge issue. My name's Aaron. This is Canadian Loony. Like, share, subscribe. I work very hard at this channel. Believe it or not, I spend 12 hours a day, 7 days a week at this, because it takes a lot of time to watch all of the politics. But that is where you get your real information. So I would appreciate your subscription. I know that a lot of people that watch this channel, 60% of the people that watch my channel aren't subscribed. I need you to subscribe. I'd like you to subscribe. I'm asking for that because this stuff is so censored, which is a part of legacy media, that it's hard to get any kind of word out. I know that there's other platforms. Just go to that. I know that a lot of people, liberal voters, watch YouTube, and I'm hoping they'll catch some of this and become informed. Learn a little more, because again, it's not a liberal conservative thing. It's an evil versus good thing. I'm not a conservative. Like, I will be voting that way because we need to get out from underneath this elephant that keeps squashing us. It's ridiculous. Please like, share, subscribe, get notified. Come check out one of our live shows. We cover Canadian federal politics right there, and I think you'd enjoy our chat room. It's the best that I've seen online. That's it, Aaron, Canadian Loony. Like, share, subscribe. We'll catch you in the next video. We're gonna wrap it up right here. Out for now. Thanks for watching.